Hi guys, it's Primrose and welcome back. And today I am very excited to share with you some care tips of this beautiful Clivia Miniata here in front of me. And so far, the most easy care plant that I have in my collection. And I highly recommend this to anybody, even for a beginner. This plant does not require any special care at all, and for the past 3 years it's been giving me beautiful flowers twice a year. But last spring, instead of producing flowers, it produced several offsets, and that one is the tiniest and it came out recently, and a few more which I think are now ready to be separated from the mother plant, and I will have to do that eventually, so that the mother plant will have more space to grow in its spot. But I'm thinking of saving this one here. Um, I think it will be nice to have a multiple flower stalk in a single pot when the offset is mature enough to produce flowers. And as you can see, it's in bloom, and some of the buds opened up already, and it's in beautiful bright orange color. I have a bunch more buds coming up, and I counted and it's giving me 15 buds this year. So far, the biggest cluster of flower that this plant is giving me. In the past, I was getting a smaller cluster of 10 in a single flower stalk, so I'm quite happy with that. And as you can see, the leaves are so lush and it's very thick, and it's fanning out from the base, very similar to a leek. And the flower stalk is a little bit off-centered, and that is normal. I know that this plant can be cultivated outside, but I can only share a few care tips for growing this plant inside because I have it inside my home. And as for the lighting requirements, it is currently living in front of my southern exposed window, and it's getting a few hours of direct sunlight in the morning and plenty of bright light all throughout the day. And if your Clivia Miniata is not producing flowers, that could be a sign that your plant is not getting enough light. It does not have enough energy to produce flowers. So you might need, if that happens, you might need to move it to another spot in your home where it can get some hours of direct sunlight and plenty of bright light. And as for feeding, I start in the spring and all throughout the summer. I use a all-purpose well-diluted fertilizer, and I feed it every second watering, and I flush it out as well. It's very important, not just with this plant, but with the all of the house plants that we have in our home. I think that is very basic, and it's very important that we do the flushing out. And because we do not want that a salt build up in the roots. So if it's the roots are clear of salt buildup, it can absorb nutrients better. And that's the other thing that I don't like with the using a chemical based fertilizer. You might have noticed it around the rim of your pots. It's this salt texture that builds up along here, and it's very ugly. And another thing is that the first time I used a chemical based fertilizer, I followed the instruction in the box, and it was full strength, And after that, after a few days that I used a full strength in my houseplants, I get some of the leaves get sunburned. It was looking like a sunburn, but it was the reaction to the full strength chemical based fertilizer. So now I try to stay on the safe side by diluting it very carefully. So for example, if the box says a spoonful for a gallon of water, so I usually divide it into 3, and that's what I use per gallon. And this time I am switching into this seaweed based organic fertilizer, but even with this one, it's concentrated, so I still am very cautious when it comes to uh, feeding my plants. And then as for propagation, after the flowers are spent, this part here, you will notice that it will grow big, it will swell, and that's the sign that the flower stalk is trying to produce seeds, and that process will take a lot of energy from the mother plant. So I don't want that. I right away cut off the flower stalk. And if you are propagating it from the seeds, it will take several years for the plant to get into a stage where it can produce flower. So the best way, and the way that I preferred, is to propagate it from the offsets. And it takes, I think, about 2 years for the plant to mature, and that's when it will start to produce flowers. And as for the repotting, this plant it has a very thick fleshy roots, and it likes to be somewhat pot bound, so no need to repot it every 2 years. The sign that your Clivia miniata will need a repotting is when the thick roots are pushing out the dirt from the top, not from the base of your, not from the drainage holes, but from the top. So I have this plant in this container for 3 years, and so far I don't see any thick roots coming out from the top yet. So at this stage, it's still okay there, but every spring I scrape off the top soil and replace it with the compost. So that's how I do it. And so far I think that's all about this plant, and I thank you guys so much for watching, and take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.